All right, everybody, it's 2 o'clock. I'm just going to get started by kind of giving you an overview of what we're talking about today. Thanks for everybody who's joining me on in this time. I'm sure there'll be stragglers rolling in. I want to use this webinar to address some important topics coming up, and then I'll have Q&A at the end, so for quite a bit. So if people have questions, that's going to be probably the biggest bonus for participating today. I'll just go over the basics now. We'll give people a chance for the next 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes for additional people to show up and join the meeting. All right, so obviously with the big beautiful bill deadline approaching on July 1st of this year, we have lots of news, lots of things to cover, some important topics to cover. Also, the SAVE forbearance is going to be ending pretty soon, so we have to talk about what to do with that. Tax filing is obviously a big concern there now. Do I file separately? Do I file it jointly? How does that apply to people in the SAVE forbearance still? So we'll go over all of that stuff. I'll also talk about parent borrowers. Probably the most important and urgent news is the deadline for parents to take out loans without forfeiting their entire eligibility for all of PSLF and IDR plans. So we'll talk about that. So that's a biggie. That's super important. Anybody who doesn't understand those new rules is going to potentially be subject to losing out on public service loan forgiveness or IDR forgiveness, or even lower payments based on income for all of their loans, even for loans already taken out. So we'll discuss how that works. That's, of course, only for borrowers who take out loans after July of 2026, but I'll talk about all those in a minute. And some changes to the federal student aid and things that we're seeing to errors with loan servicers and things like that. So I'll address all of that. And then after I get to kind of go over what I need to go over, we'll get into the Q&A and we'll go from there. And I'll stay on as long as we have questions. The first thing I'm going to go over, and I'm just going to jump in. This will be recorded for people, so eventually it'll show up on YouTube here next week or two once I get the video edited. Until then, so if anybody misses the first part of this, they can certainly do so. I'm going to start with the subjects that are of lesser importance, but still something to be aware of. The first thing I wanted to address is the new layout to federal student aid, which has annoyed me. Federal student aid changed their website. They did a couple wonderful things. For example, now the website will log you out with inactivity within like 120 seconds. So you have to keep logging in over and over. That's delightful. I'm sure everybody loves doing the two-step verification 10 times just to apply changes on their account. So that's wonderful. The other change they made, a big change to the loan detail layout. So if you want to look at all of your loans, then you go to My Loans or View Loan Detail as normal, but the layout of it is much different. One of the things that they took away from the original layout, which was necessary to see, were the original disbursement dates of the loans. And if you've ever had a consultation with me, you know that one of the things I ask you is, how old are your loans? When have you taken out your first loans? Do they predate July 1st, 2014? Do they predate October 1st, 2007? Federal student loan regulations grandfathered based on the date of disbursement and when you carried those loans, and it determines which programs you're eligible for. So it's an extremely important piece of information. Now to find that, you have to go into each loan individually in the past and look at the disbursement dates one at a time at every loan, just to make sure there are no disbursements prior to certain dates if you don't remember when you took out those loans. So again, it's one of the updates to federal student aid that has been very annoying to me. But one of the biggest issues that we run across is the payment due. So normally, when you're dealing with payments, you deal with your loan servicer, Mohila, Advantage, Ed Financial, Nelnet. You go there to make your payment. That's where you see what your next payment due is and when it's due. Now, federal student aid thought that they would be helpful and put that information on federal student aid as well. The problem is it's wrong all the time. It's telling people they're past due when they're not. It's telling the wrong payments due. So an important basic of understanding these two websites, because you have to use both of them, right? So with federal student aid, your FAFSA, the FSA account, just plain old studentaid.gov, that's where you want to go to process consolidation applications, to recertify your income-driven repayment plan. That's where you go. You can also go in and see history for loans that were taken out where you don't see them at the servicer. So it will have history on all of your loans that you've ever taken out, where your loan servicer will only show the loans that you've held there. So that's federal student aid is most of the magic happens on federal student aid when it comes to executing processing. When it comes to the loan servicer, those are the ones you trust. Even MOHELA, and you don't hear me use the word trust and MOHELA in the same sentence very often, but when it comes to your payment due and account status, then that is where you want us to go to your loan servicer to check it out. I don't care what federal student aid says your status is. You want to confirm that at your loan servicer. So, for example, let's say you're pursuing forgiveness in an income-driven repayment plan or the public service loan forgiveness program, and you need to make sure that you're getting eligible months or qualified months towards forgiveness. In order to make sure you get credit, you have to have two different things happen simultaneously. So number one, you have to be in repayment status no matter what. So when you go to Nelnet, for example, and you click on My Loans, and you have to look through under the first group, and it'll tell you the repayment status and the repayment plan. So the status needs to say in repayment. Under MOHELA, Ed Financial, or Advantage, you actually, where you see the loans listed on the account summary, your loans, you'll see 1-01, 1-02, 1-03. Those sequences are actually hyperlinks. Don't click the plus sign, click the actual 1-01 or whatever the number is itself. And the next page at the very top will show the loan status and the loan repayment plan. The status has to say repayment, otherwise you're not getting credit. If it says administrative forbearance or deferment or grace period, you're not getting credit during those times. If it says repayment, you've got your 50% there. The repayment status, the repayment plan, needs to show which plan you're in. So income-based repayment, pay-as-you-earn, revised pay-as-you-earn, save, income contingent repayment. Those are all loan plans. It might say standard or graduated repayment, extended standard, something like that. Those are plans that don't qualify towards forgiveness. So in order to get credit towards PSLF or IDR, you have to be in repayment status and in one of the qualifying plans, such as income-based repayment or income contingent repayment. And by the way, when you see the words IDR, and again, I always tell this to people to clarify the difference, income-driven repayment plan, or IDR, is not a plan. It's the blanket term for all 6 plans, including income contingent, income-based, pay-as-you-earn, revised pay-as-you-earn, save, and the new RAP plan. Those are all income-driven plans. So when you see a document from your loan servicer that says your ID, as in David R, plan was approved, that doesn't mean you're in the IDR plan. It means that, because a lot of times people will say, well, I thought I was in IBR. You are. IBR is one of the 6 IDR plans. So your loan servicer will tell you which one those are. Now, the information is available at federal student aid. You just can't trust it. So it might be wrong. And sometimes they'll show multiples, like I've seen on the front page on your dashboard where you scroll down, it says level repayment, then save unavailable education, then IBR under that. It shows them all. Which one is it? Go to your loan servicer and then go to loan details to see that and to see the status and the plan. So those are the ways to always check to make sure that you're getting credit. So if you're in repayment and you're in one of the IDR plans, any of those 6, IBR, ICR, pay-as-you-earn, save. Now, of course, with the save plan, for everybody who's in save, the repayment status is going to show administrative forbearance, right? So save people, that's why you're not getting credit while you're in save, because you are in save, but you're also in an administrative forbearance due to the lawsuit. So anyways, I wanted to make that distinction, and it's a great way for people to feel secure that they are making qualified payments, they're in the right plan. So the status needs to be repayment, the plan needs to be one of the 4 income-driven plans to get credit towards forgiveness. Then you're good to go. So again, consolidations are processed at federal student aid. So are your recertifications for the IDR plans, any of them. Or if you need to switch from SAVE to a different plan or from one plan to another, you do that at federal student aid. And your loan servicer, you make payments, you check on the account status there. So whatever they say your payment due, if they say your payment is due is $50 a month, then that's your payment. I don't care what federal student aid says. So that's understanding that will help you clarify what the real loan status is and basically make it so that you don't have to panic when you see federal student aid telling you something that's incorrect, because I've seen it a lot where it's showing accounts delinquent when they're not. All right, so now I want to talk about some of the issues we're seeing with the income with processing switches, plan switches, or applying for plans. So some of you who are in the SAVE program in forbearance now, sometimes over 20 months since June of 24, have been trying to switch plans and they haven't been processing them. You need to submit again, because if it's over 5 or 6 months old if you've submitted a request in August and it hasn't been done, it's just not ever going to get done, most likely. There's a good chance that it won't anyways. You're going to have to resubmit again, unfortunately, for that. Mohila is the biggest culprit, of course. They're the worst of the loan servicers. I'm sorry for all you Mohila people, but all the loan servicers are pretty bad. So now what I'm noticing now is any plan applications or plan changes that you make on the federal student aid for IDR plans, if it links to the IRS and it shows you what your payment is, and you select that payment, you continue, it's processing within a week or two, lightning fast. So recently, they appear to have bumped up the staffing on the IDR departments for all the loan servicers, understanding that there's a big storm brewing when everybody in the SAVE forbearance is going to be forced to switch to a different plan, right? And I'm going to talk about that next. So it's a good idea to try and get if you need to do your switch, and it's a good idea to do that. It's a good idea to get that done before this spring when they're going to force you out. So on that note, the SAVE injunction, this forbearance that you've been in for a year and a half or more, it's about to come to an end. We don't know exactly when, but there's already a proposal to settle the SAVE lawsuit. The moment that happens, SAVE is going to be canceled anyways. They're going to force you out of SAVE, make you choose a different plan. 7 million borrowers are still in the SAVE forbearance. So you're going to have 7 million people trying to switch plans all at one time. So almost certainly that's going to bog down the system a little bit and make it a little bit slower. So to avoid that, again, I think you still have maybe a month or so or a month or two before that executes. But it could be tomorrow if the settlement happens tomorrow. So you want to take that under consideration as one of the benefits for recertifying your plan now, if you need to recertify or if you need to change out of the SAVE program. So on that note, with the SAVE program, whether or not it's time for you to switch depends. It's a different answer for everybody on that one. So if you, let's say, for example, I have a lot of clients who filed jointly in 2024, and they did that because, there's been a pandemic. They've advanced the anniversary dates, years in advance. You haven't had to recertify in 5 years. You might as well not pay the extra money to the IRS to file separately. So you've been filing jointly. Well, now you finally need to switch plans and provide new proof of income. So the idea would be then to file your taxes before you recertify, right? So file jointly or separately as quickly as you can. Again, as long as it makes sense financially in that circumstance. And then, because it can be expensive to file separately with the IRS, you want to make sure that you're not paying the IRS more money than you're paying the U.S. Department of Education or for your monthly payment. But if you file separately, then file separately first, and then switch your plan or recertify afterwards. So that's the generic advice for that. Now, some people have to file jointly for various reasons. And those are unique situations where there are other solutions, but essentially now is a great time to switch to beat the wave that's coming, the fact that you're going to have to switch anyways pretty soon out of Save and choose a different plan, and also recertifying or doing a plan switch now establishes your anniversary date during the tax season. So they overlap, which is a huge advantage because it allows you each year to decide which tax return you use as proof of income. If you recertify first, you'll use, or you switch plans first from Save to IBR, for example, or Pay As You Earn. Then you'll establish an anniversary date, um, this in March sometime, most likely, or April, and you'll use your 2024 return. If it's less, you want to do that. But you also have the option, if you want, to do your taxes first and then recertify after. Each year, your anniversary date and your window to recertify will overlap tax season, and you'll have that advantage, that benefit each year to recertify first or to file taxes first, whichever creates the lowest payment. So, and that also can keep it another year in the lag too if your income is increasing, and a myriad of other different reasons for that. So be aware of that, right? Uh, Now, yeah, so one of your options to switch plans would be to choose the Pay As You Earn program, right? So Pay As You Earn for borrowers who have loans older than 2014 and newer than 2007, those borrowers may qualify for the Pay As You Earn program, and that will create a lower payment for that group of borrowers by 2/3 of what it would be in IBR. So it is tempting to choose the Pay As You Earn program if it's available, especially if the payment's much lower. Problem that is that Pay As You Earn is being canceled under the Big Beautiful Bill in July, and the IBR program is going to remain. So we don't know exactly how quickly that'll happen. The Big Beautiful Bill states that Pay As You Earn is going to be canceled sometime between July of 26 and July of 28. And that'd be great if it lasted, if it took you till 2028, you could get a couple more years and Pay As You Earn at the lower payment before you had to go into a higher paying IBR plan. So you might choose Pay As You Earn. However, if you do that, then you may be forced to switch out of it if they cancel that program this fall, and then you'll have to use your 25 return. And if you haven't if you used your 24 before that, it'll make you recertify early, and then you'll establish an anniversary date in the middle of the year, and your payment's going to go up anyway. So there's a little bit of a risk there with doing Pay As You Earn. My advice, though, is just if Pay As You Earn is available and it creates a much lower payment, you might as well, in most circumstances, take it. But again, that answer can be different depending on exactly how everything's timed, what your income growth is, and what your anniversary date is, and what the payment difference is. So eventually, you're going to have to go into IBR. Now, for borrowers who took out their first loans after July 1st of 2014, it's IBR all the way. Income base repayment is just as good as Pay As You Earn for those borrowers. It's a 10% formula, 20-year forgiveness, qualifies for PSLF, exact same program. So it's a no-brainer when you need to switch plans and it's time to switch and you're not in IBR already. If your loans are newer than July 1st of 2014, you want to choose that plan. So that's one thing I want to go over. Yeah, so parent borrowers, and again, I'm sure we'll have questions about this, but parent borrowers have the biggest, scariest change coming up. So if you have Parent Plus loans, and let's say you're already in debt, if you take out one more loan, $1 of federal student loan debt after July 1st of 2026, it forfeits your eligibility for all income-driven plans forever, which essentially, again, based on the way the rule is written right now, and these things are still being ironed out, but that could disqualify you for PSLF, right? So if you don't qualify for an IDR plan, you don't qualify for PSLF, because IDR plans create the qualified payments for PSLF. So, for example, if you took out $200,000 in parent loans, and you have one more semester to pay for, and you take out a parent loan after July 1st of 2026, even if you've consolidated those loans, it forfeits your eligibility for IBR and PSLF going forward, either one. And you're stuck with just a standard plan. You don't qualify for any income-driven or base plan at all. So that's monumental. You'll be stuck with the several $1,000 payment then instead of the payment based off your income. So for borrowers who are doing that, when it's possible, there are options such as having your spouse take out all the loans going forward from now on. And one quick little note on that, the other thing that's changing with parent loans is, of course, the amount that you can take out. So if you still have kids in school, um, there's going to be new limits as to how much you can take out, a maximum of 20,000 per year, right? Which is much less than it used to be. So you want to make sure if you do have a current child in school and they still need more disbursements after July 1st of 2026, number one, you need to consolidate all those loans right away. Everybody, if you have a parent loan, um, full stop, you need to consolidate if you haven't consolidated. If you have any loan that's not consolidated, it needs to be consolidated. Schedule a call with me if you want help with that, and I'll walk you through it. But parent borrowers need to consolidate whatever they've got right now. Number two, you can't take that same parent just should not take out any additional parent loans for even that same child. You can skirt around that by having the spouse take out the parent loans going forward, understanding that your spouse will not be able to take advantage of income-driven plans either, but at least it preserves your eligibility for IVR and PSLF on the existing parent loans that have already been taken out. And if you want to take advantage of the legacy rules that allow you to continue to take out the full amount in parent loans based on today's rules, the new parent would have to get one disbursement before July 1st. In other words, the child borrower would have to go take out loans for spring, for that existing session. So you want to act fast on that, and you want to make sure that that if you have a ton of parent loan debt right now, it's got to be consolidated by July 1st, and it's got to you can't take out any new loans. You cannot take out $1 of new loans, and you want to make sure with the school that you are not set up to do that. The school is going to want to get you into debt, right? They're basically used car salesmen. So the more debt you get into, the more money that goes in their pocket. They get the loan. The loan goes to you, you pay them for school. And so they're happy to take out more loans. They don't care if you can pay it back or not. So make sure that you do not take out additional loans unless you understand that is forfeiting your eligibility for all income-driven plans and PSLF altogether. Any forgiveness potential whatsoever is out the window for anybody who takes out loans after July 1st of 2026. So if you switch spouses to preserve the eligibility for the existing spouse, then the new spouse still is going to not qualify for anything, but at least only those loans will be left out. So that's the basics of parent loans. All right, so those are the basics for what I wanted to go over with. If you have questions for me, I'm going to open up a Q&A right now, just so we can have fun and talk. And if you have questions for me, go ahead and chat in there, and then Veronica will call you out, and then she'll unmute you, and you can chat with me and ask your question. Yeah.
I have a question if that's okay.
Please.
Hi. So I'm in the save forbearance right now, and I was doing PSLF. I just was wanting to find out. I had read that the save forbearance would qualify eventually for the PSLF buyback program if I'm with this qualified employer for these certain years, but it's in the save forbearance. I just wanted to hear from you if you have heard anything about that, if that's a definite, if that's something still up in the air. Thanks for your help.
Yeah, so buyback was another subject that I want to get into. So I'm going to give you the long answer to it, so it can because it's really necessary, but it also cover any question anybody has about buyback. So just to explain real quick what the buyback program is, of course, for borrowers who are pursuing public service loan forgiveness and were in the SAVE program and then subsequently entered in the SAVE forbearance, in real time right now, they're not getting credit for those. So if you look at the PSLF tracker, it's showing as ineligible months right now, right? So your last, all the way back till June probably shows ineligible, ineligible, ineligible. You're not getting credit towards PSLF in real time. However, the buyback program does allow you to qualify to buy those months back based on what your payment would have been at that time, based on whatever program survives. But you can't buy them back until the months that you're buying back bring you to 120 qualified payments, right? So, for example, if you're 5 years into the program, you have 60 qualified months, and you've been in the SAVE forbearance for 20 months now, for a year and a half and change, then you would have 70 months of qualified time if it wasn't for the SAVE program. Once you get to 100 qualified payments, then you can buy back the 20 that you're waiting for to bring you up to 120 once you're approved. So that's how buyback works. So you can't apply for buyback until you put 10 years in, but if you have, then you can request to buy back those months as long as those months bring you to 120 once they're approved. So you have to wait and apply for it later. Now, here's the issue with buyback. The buyback program still exists, and it made it through the big beautiful bill. I'm surprised. I thought that the current administration would cancel it. They did not. However, what they've done is their MO is, which instead of canceling it, they're just choking it off, and essentially starving it, so that it's processing at a snail's pace. So I think last year I was telling people, somewhere in the summer and fall, buyback is now starting to work again, but it's taking about 9 months before you're approved. I put that processing time now well over a year, and the reason for that is that for every one application that's processed in buyback, 5 or 6 are received, right? And every month that goes by, you have a greater number of people who are approaching that 10 years, and so the queue just gets bigger and bigger. The backlog just keeps growing exponentially on buyback. So buyback stops making sense once the length of time it takes to get the buyback or get approved for it exceeds the number of months you need to buy back, right? Now, an example of where you might want to bank on the buyback is if, let's say, for example, for physicians, if you were a resident making 60 or 70,000 a year during the SAVE injunction, so your payment would have been based off of that, $300 or $400 a month. But now you're an attending making $300,000 a year, and your payment would be several $1,000s per month, making payments going forward. The buyback would actually save you some money, right? Because you buy back those months and get credit for them based on your residency income. So if you had a much lower income during that time, then buyback, there is, especially if you need 20 months to go, certainly apply for it. Everybody who is ready to apply and has reached those thresholds, work 10 years, apply for buyback, but don't put your hopes in it. And if your payment's not, your lump sum that you have to pay to buy those months back is essentially going to be similar to what your monthly payments are anyways. Just keep making payments and you'll probably get to 120 payments before you get approved for buyback. Because I'm assuming now it's going to take in the years, 1 or 2 years before those people are approved. Now, this is for people who are on pace to hit 120 or work 10 years during this current administration, right? So theoretically, if we have a different administration, if a Democrat takes over for the next term, then the buyback program, federal student aid might be restaffed, and they may be able to handle the volume and expedite the approval of those programs. So borrowers on pace to be forgiven after 2029 might find that buyback works great. But every month that goes by in this current administration, buyback just gets worse and worse. So the program's still there, but it's almost worthless right now, with the exception of those people. Another example of people who are really depending on buyback are those who can't wait to quit their job, right? They're working a nonprofit or government agency job that they really causes them stress and or maybe even money. They're taking quite a payment cut for it. For those people, they may just take the risk, get to 120, submit the buyback, and then quit their job and then just hope for buyback to eventually allow them to buy it back on the and get forgiven. That'll allow them to quit because they don't need to work anymore nonprofit stuff after that. So that's essentially, again, I know I'm doing a long-winded answer here for you. The other thing I want to mention about buyback is when you do submit buyback, you have to first do another employment certification form when you're sure you worked at least 10 years, at least 3,650 days or whatever it is. And then once that's approved, then you can submit the buyback request after that. When you submit the buyback request, you'll the system, if you're a day short of that 10 years, it'll tell you don't have enough eligible payments yet. So if that's the case, you might have to do another employment certification a month later, and then submit the buyback after that, once the system thinks you have 10 years in. So it's kind of fussy that way. But yeah, so buyback still exists. So did that answer your question, Marina?
Yes, that was great. Thank you. And that actually is exactly my situation. I have about 4 years in with the save forbearance, but I'm going to be switching from resident to attending in August, and I'll have 6 more years, so it won't be this administration. A
Exactly.
quick follow-up question
Yeah,
with that. I'm planning on discussing some of my like the upcoming income changes and stuff with a CPA, because we have kids, and filing jointly versus separately, all of that kind of plays into things. But is it going to be better? I do want to set up something with you. Is it better to talk to the CPA first or talk to you first to go to, which one should happen first?
talk to the CPA first,
Okay.
and so you can find out what the differences in costs of filing are, right? So you know how much it's going to cost you, and if you have to decide between joint or separate, you want to know the break even, the difference between the two, and what they call the delta, right, between the filing separately and jointly, and so that we can compare how that's going to impact your payment, and then we'll have that variable to compare it to see whether it's worth it to file separately or not. So I would have your conversation with your CPA first, but don't file your taxes until after you talk to me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. You bet.
Jan, a quick follow-up about buyback. Have
hmm
you seen evidence that it is working for some people?
Yes, in an extremely limited fashion. So by some people, two with my own eyes in the last 6 months.
Okay,
That's a
so
lot less than
got
the
it.
number of people I've helped
And
out
I,
and
and
do
I
the
imagine
application.
that once we have no idea how long the process takes. It's getting longer and longer. We put in the application, we wait. Is there any way to track the application or find
No,
out if they lost it or what? You just cross your fingers and wait for a letter.
right. The only thing is when you go, if you try to submit another buyback application, the system would say you already got one in. So if you try and submit buyback again, it'll tell you that you already have an application in. At least that's confirmation that they have you um, flagged as somebody who's already submitted the application. That is the only thing you're going to get until, if they later on, when they start to review your application, they might ask for new proof of income during that time period for any months after the first 12 months to establish your monthly payment. Other than that, all of a sudden one day you'll get a letter that states you've been approved. This is how much you need to pay. You have 90 days to pay it. You then pay it based on the amount, the instructions, and then once they receive the payment and process it, they'll bring your total to 120, and then you'll be in the queue for forgiveness. Once your payment total shows 120, whether it's from buyback or by any other means, you can take your hands off the steering wheel. There is no more recertifications for IDR, for employment certification, no more payments to make. You can put your payments on pause. There's no additional application for forgiveness. If you show 120, there is nothing left to do but wait for forgiveness. And during that time, it's okay to put your loans in forbearance. They should do it automatically. In the application, it says, yes, I believe I qualify for forgiveness, and I'd like to put the loans in forbearance while I wait. Even if you check that box, especially if you have MOHELA, they might not do it. But it's just a quick call to your loan servicer and just to ask them to put it in forbearance.
Okay, thank you.
hmm Yeah. Other questions?
Yeah, I have one, Jen.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I'm trying to find where and when we should recertify income and employer also. And I'm on the website.
Okay.
This is for my wife's loan, and I can't seem to exactly find the right area where to be able to do this and when to do this. I know that last time we talked with you, or one of the last times, we delay as much as possible our taxes so we get closer to the date of recertifying, which I
Right.
believe is, but I don't know exactly when that happens, that recertification. We always ask for an extension for our taxes
Right.
because it was that game we were playing of pushing it forward, and we're doing this again this year.
Yeah. So
Um,
let me show you. Let me tell you where to find it. So first of
okay.
all, two different anniversary dates, right? So with employment certification, there is no deadline. You could do it every 3 months, every 3 years, anytime in between.
Okay.
So after a year, you might get a notice from federal student aid saying, hey, we noticed you haven't recertified your employer in a while. Make sure to go ahead and do that. But it is not a deadline. So there's no hurry on that one. Once every
Okay.
2 years is fine. It doesn't have to be done at any particular time. You're
Okay.
not going to see any credits for months show up in the PSL
So
qualified
what
payment
happens?
total until that's certified done. But so that's that. So the IDR application or recertification date is only one place to trust that you can find that. Who's your loan servicer?
Mohela.
So on Mohela, are you logged in there now? Can you log in?
Yep. Yep.
Go ahead and log in there and I'll show you exactly where it's at.
All right. I am there.
All right, so on the account summary page, scroll down under your loans. You see where it says 1-01, 1-02, 1-03. It lists all the sequence of the loans.
Oh, yes.
Click on the 1-01 or whatever that first number is. It doesn't have to be
First
1-01,
one.
it can be 1-08, whatever, 2-04. Click on
Perfect.
that, and then you'll see status.
Oh, yeah. Repayment plan.
And it ends on what date?
August 22nd of this year.
There you go. So your anniversary date. Which plan are you in?
Where would I find
That
exactly
should be
what
right
it
there.
is?
So you should see status and then repayment plan.
Income-based
Okay.
repayment.
Income based. Yep. So yeah,
Yep.
so you don't have to recertify. So that anniversary date is actually your deadline, right? That you have to be approved by before your payment goes up. So
Okay.
essentially 2 to 3 months before that, you're going to get notification saying, hey, it's the time of your time to recertify. Sometime probably in June,
Okay.
you'll get notice of that, at which point you have 2 months to recertify before the deadline is up. So,
Okay. And where do I go to do that is it
so
on student aid or on Mohela?
yes. So for IDR recertifications or applications, for consolidation applications, for PSLF employment certification, all done on studentaid.gov, the FAFSA or
On
FSA
student aid.
website. Yeah.
Okay.
For making payments or checking to see which plan you're in or the status you're in, you want to do that at Mohela.
And Mohela.
And
Yeah.
trust Mohela for what payment is due. But when it comes to the applications or recertifications, the process is executed at FAFSA at studentaid.gov.
Okay. Okay. So at this point, so when we're going to recertify so we did our taxes for 2024. So they're only going to have that information. So they'll base it on those incomes.
Exactly. So if you're going to file jointly anyways this year and you filed jointly for 24 and your income is going up, then definitely recertify first. And then so you do your extension, right, on your taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the purpose of doing that is so you don't have to do your taxes till October 15th. Your recertification window opens up in June, and then you go ahead and process it. Then you file your taxes afterwards, and that way it still grabs your prior year tax return. So either the prior 2-year tax returns qualify as proof of income documentation, whichever is most recently filed. So if you wait and recertify first and then file taxes, it'll use the prior year.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Hey, Jen.
Go ahead.
Quick update on my situation. It's kind of ironic, but this morning I received a notification from Mohela about processing my switch from Save, which has been about 13 months old since I submitted that application. And I was holding out, not doing my taxes because it's a drastic difference. And so that's great news because I was not optimistic at all. And I haven't heard of many people actually getting those old applications processed, but now they've got me on pay. And so I'm almost hesitant to even mess with trying to switch to an IDR. Like if they make me switch in the middle of this year, I'm just going to throw my hands up and say, what do you want me to do? It's like,
it could happen, right? Yeah. So if pay as you earn is going to be canceled at some point in the next 2 years under the big beautiful bill. So when that happens, they'll probably ask you to switch plans at that point, which will likely require new proof of income documentation. So if that happens, that would be unfortunate to be in pay as you earn and then you'd file your taxes, and then they ask you to switch mid-year after that, and then you have to use your newer tax return. Your payment goes up, not only because you're switching to a higher payment plan like IBR, but also because your income shows higher. So that is the only risk with pay as you earn. But I mean, you're already in it, and switching plans is going to increase your payment anyways. So when's your anniversary date?
So they've got this new one, well, that they processed here. My first payment for pay is going to start a month from now.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so your
yeah,
anniversary date is going to be right around this time. Yeah, so I mean, again, if pay as you earn is going to be significantly less than what IBR would be for you, because you obviously have loans that predate July 1st of 2014, right? Originally.
yes, yeah, some of them
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
But
it only takes one for even $1. If you had $1 worth of debt as of July 1st, 2014, it forfeits your eligibility for the new IBR plan for the rest of your life, forever, amen, on all loans. So even if it was only $1 in one loan. So having debt prior to that date, even if you'd paid it off on July 2nd, 2014, you still would be subject to the old rules, and the IBR program will be the 15% version for you. So your payment will go up 50% in comparison to what it would have been with pay as you earn. So your payment will be quite a bit higher in IBR when you do switch to it. So it's probably, I mean, again, it takes some time to do all these things. So there's no way to predict how long it's going to take them to move you from pay as you earn to IBR. But, the way this administration is working, um, they'll probably want to force you sooner than later. So I would imagine this fall, or this winter would be the latest that pay as you earn will go. Again, the Big Beautiful Plan says between July 1st and of 2026 and July of 2028. And you could think, well, if FSA or federal student aid is so understaffed right now, and they're having such difficult times, that it might take a while before they make you switch to pay as you earn, just because they can't systematically implement the necessary changes in the system to allow that to happen. Theoretically correct, but it is a little bit of a gamble. But switching now, you're already in pay as you earn. You might as well stay in pay as you earn as long as you can, and hopefully that gets you at least to the end of the year, and hopefully longer.
yeah, I mean, I'm celebrating the small victories just because this is
Mhm.
when I submitted this, 13 months ago. It was from a taxes, which was a resident. So I mean, it's a tens of thousands of dollar
Yeah,
difference. So I didn't even think that was going to happen, and I am seeing some movement on that. So that's a huge plus to me, but I'm still skeptical.
right. Yeah, with pay as you earn, you're still getting, even though the program's eventually going away, you're still getting credit right now towards forgiveness and PSLF if you're working for a nonprofit or government agency. If you're pursuing that program, you're getting credit as well. But again, it will affect, depending on how the timing of everything, how it rolls out. Um, Sometimes, especially if you're jumping from residency to an attending salary right now, it might be better to switch to IBR so that you lock in the payment based on your lower income in the past, and then you've got that for 12 months from now versus doing PS or pay as you earn for 6 months, but then your IBR payment going way up once you have to use your 25 return after you file taxes. So that's the gamble. But essentially, in most cases, I think sticking with pay as you earn and just getting every drop you can out of it until they make you switch is probably going to be, the best way to go.
All right,
Did that
thank you
answer your
so much.
question?
Yes,
Yeah.
it did.
Okay. Other questions?
I have a question on talking about pay as you earn.
Mhm.
What would be the difference between pay as you earn and this IBR plan that we'll be switching to?
So if you're in pay as you earn, and your loans were taken out for your very first loan that you've ever taken out for federal loans was after July 1st of 2014, then there's no difference whatsoever. You'll want to switch to IBR, because the one difference is that the IBR plan C is a Congress approved plan that isn't going away, and pay as you earn is going away. So if you have to recertify anyways, and IBR isn't going to create a larger payment, you might as well switch to IBR. However, if your loans are older than 2014, if you took out even one loan prior to that date and you held a balance as of July 1st, 2014, then the IBR program is 50% greater. So it's a 15% instead of a 10% formula. So for example, the way they calculate the program, let's say you make $100,000 a year. And in pay as you earn, and we'll just do family size 2 to make it easy. Family size 2 deduction is 32,000, 150% of the poverty line. So they take your 100,000, they subtract 32,000, which is 68,000. They would take it for pay as you earn times 10%, which is 6,800 divided by 12. You're talking about a payment of, what, 575 or whatever that comes out to. With IBR, they'll take the 100,000, subtract the 32,000, you get 68,000 times 15%, which is 10,400 or whatever that comes out to, divided by 12. Now your payment is $800 or $900 a month, right? So your payment in IBR is going to be 50% greater than what it would have been in pay as you earn based on the same income. That's the way the math works out. So it's quite a big difference, especially as your incomes get higher. For a borrower who has a $200 payment in pay as you earn, their payment in IBR on the same income would be $300. But for borrowers who have $2,000 payment in pay as you earn, it's going to be $3,000, right? So the difference, the bigger your income is, the greater the difference IBR, the old IBR plan is going to make. But Mel, are your loans older than 2014?
No, 2017. So it
So
sounds
if the
like no
first loans
change.
you took out were in July 2017 and you didn't have out debt before that,
Correct.
then IBR is, you're going to want to get to IBR as soon as you're required to, because it's the same payment based on the same income that pay as you earn is. Your payment's going to be the same in either program.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Is the follow-up on that same thing, is the percentage on the new, I guess, RAP program any better for people pursuing PSLF?
Well, it depends. Yeah, so the new RAP program coming up, it's not even available yet now, right? RAP does qualify for PSLF, and it's better for smaller family sizes. And so let's put it this way. If you qualify for, like Mel, who qualifies for the 10% version of IBR or pay as you earn, those are your first choice. Those are superior to all other plans now, because SAVE is gone, right? SAVE would be the only thing that would create a lower payment, and that's not an option anymore. So the new IBR plan for borrowers whose first loans were taken out after July 1st of 2014, those borrowers, IBR is going to be the best in any circumstance, any family size, any income. IBR is superior to the RAP program. Now, for borrowers who have larger incomes or smaller family sizes and don't qualify for new IBR, it's never an uncomplicated answer, but if you don't qualify for the new IBR plan, so you're going to have to do the 15% IBR plan, then there are scenarios in which RAP is a lower payment, especially for borrowers who make hundreds of thousands of dollars, or for borrowers who have smaller family sizes. So the IBR program has a greater deduction for family size than RAP does, but RAP does use a 10% formula. So for some people, it's going to create a lower payment. So that's an ambiguous answer, but it just depends on a number of things. But the one sure answer I can give you is, if you qualify for the new version of IBR, if your first loans are after July 1st of 2014, then IBR is superior to RAP in all circumstances.
Yeah, no, I mean, my loans are from 2012,
Yeah.
and like I said, I just got over to the pay, and we're making a lot more money, and I'm just married, no kids, so it might be worth me setting up a call with you to crunch those numbers once
Yes,
the
it's a
RAP.
good idea. Are you working for a nonprofit or government agency?
Yes, I'm
yeah.
through COVID and everything. I'm like 6 years into it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Definitely it would be a good idea to schedule a call, because we want to review those numbers to see which one's going to create the lowest payment for you. And also, when you go to you want to make sure that you don't switch to RAP until you know for sure. You don't want to get stuck in that program if it's too high. So because the RAP program also doesn't have a payment cap. So that's one of the other differences. So with RAP, if you make $10 million a year, your payment's going to be 15,000 or whatever it is. With IBR, it doesn't, your payment can't exceed the 10-year hardship threshold. So basically about 1% of your balance. So if you owe 300 grand, your payment can't go much above 3,000, even if you make $10 million a year. So depending on where your income thresholds are too, it's very complicated, but that's, IBR has a lot of advantages that the RAP program does not. So we have to do a lot of calculating to determine what that is. So yeah, I can review that with you. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Jen, I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
I have to jump off at a minute, but we're doing the Mary filing separately this year. I've already filed separately, and that's in.
Okay.
When I'm applying for IBR now, does it matter, since it'll be just pulling my taxes directly, whether I answer the questions of are you married, are you separated? They don't matter at this point since I'm just filing separately?
I love that question. So when you file separately, so here are the 4 questions that you're going to be answered for married borrowers. Are you married? Are you separated? Do you have reasonable access to your spouse's income? And did you file separately or jointly, right? Those are the 4 biggies. So when you file separately, you answer, of course, yes, I'm married. And as long as you're not separated, no, I'm not separated. And then on, yes, I have reasonable access to my spouse's income. Yes, you can totally, just by saying, even though you say, yes, you have reasonable access to your spouse's income, they're still not going to include your spouse's income. So a lot of people answer no to that question, thinking,
Okay.
oh, I have to make sure that we don't include my spouse's income. You don't need to do that. Even if you answer yes to that question, as long as you answer then no, we file separately, then they still only ask for and use your proof of income. Now, one of the reasons why that's important is if you answer no, I don't have reasonable access to my spouse's income, and no, I file separately, it'll still work, but then they're going to ask you to upload proof of income documentation instead of linking to the IRS. And what that does is cost you processing time, because when it links to the IRS and it calculates your payment and tells you what your payment is, it's processed electronically. You'll get get approved in a couple weeks now. Whereas if you have to upload documentation, then a rep has to actually, clerk has to actually process it, look at your proof of income, and then calculate your payment and then establish it. And there's a much bigger queue for that. It might take several months before the application is done. So
Okay.
don't be afraid to answer yes, I have reasonable access to my spouse's income if you file
Okay.
separately. Does that
Okay,
answer
good
your question?
question. What I asked.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I wanted to ask about, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I had a question. My loans are old, so I'm only eligible for the old IBR,
Right.
and so I'm still currently in the save forbearance, and I'm wondering, like, when is it worth for me to switch? Like, I should not probably. It's not really worth it for me to go into to pay,
Right.
PAYE.
Well,
But I'm also
go
a
ahead.
lower income person, so my loan payments would be, my monthly payments are going to be lower, and I'm probably going to go for the 20 or 25-year forgiveness
Okay.
at this point. So I guess, is it worth it for me to try and switch out as soon as possible, or should I just wait until they force me to switch out of the save?
You've already filed separately. And if you can afford the payment that creates, I would switch now, because then you take advantage of those advantages I talk about, which include establishing an anniversary date during the tax season, number 1. Number 2, getting in before the rush, right? So you get approved more quickly. And number 3, you start getting qualified payments again towards the 25-year forgiveness, right? So right now in the SAVE program, and here's an important thing too. So there is no buyback program for non-PSLF borrowers, for IDR only, right? So if you're going for the 20 or 25-year forgiveness, you're not going to be able, as of right now, you're not going to be able to buy back those months in SAVE. It's only for borrowers in public service loan forgiveness who can buy back those months in the buyback program. So right now, you're just not getting credit. You're not having to make a payment, but you're not getting credit. So as long as you're ready to start those payments and you've already filed separately, I would do it sooner rather than later.
So just to clarify, the last several, I mean, I guess the last few years that I've been in Save do not count towards the 20 or
It
25
does
years.
not as of this point. Again, that could change. We could have a new administration, which will almost certainly, if it, again, I always tell people when it comes to political ideology, as a student, regardless of what your ideology is, as a student loan borrower, you're a Democrat, right? I mean, there's just no question that the Democrats are going to provide more helpful repayment solutions for you than the Republicans. So there's no argument about that, right? So with keeping sensitive about, of course, the political nature of that. But so if it's very likely that if we have a Democrat as a president next year, that they will probably, for the repay plan, institute a buyback option for those borrowers who are pursuing the 25-year plan then too. It's a possibility, but that's just speculation. As of right now, you will not get credit for that these months. So, you're accruing interest now, which of course, if you get forgiven, the interest is lumped on top of the amount that is forgiven on the back end, but it might increase your taxable consequence depending on tax law at the time. So the sooner you jump in, the better your position there with that. So I would, how long have you been in repayment?
12
years.
years.
Yeah, so you got about 13 left, right? Old IBR is a 25-year plan. So if they don't, the following administrations don't create restore some of the 20-year plans like pay as you earn, which would get you forgiven in 8 years instead of 13, then you're gonna be stuck there for 13 years. And, so you might as well get started on making those monthly payments, especially if you have your income is growing, right? Because if your income is growing, the longer you wait, the more your payment's going to be on the back end in 10, 12 years, because you're going to be making more money than you did the year before, right? So your payment will be a little bit lower along the way. So, but it depends if you're ready too. You might not be in a financial position right now to start making those payments. It's an individual choice, right? But without just considering the program itself, it's better to switch now so you can take advantage of your separate filing. You can keep your lowest possible payment if your 24 return or the return that you've already filed is going to be lower than the ones coming up. And you're going to be forced to switch very soon anyways. So there's no longer a real benefit to staying in Save at this point. And eventually you're going to have to switch to a different plan. And if you do it now, then you get to do it on your own terms, right? So when the SAVE program is settled and they force you to switch, who knows what that process is going to look like? What effort you're going to have to take to make sure you get into the plan you want, to get into IBR instead of, wrap or standard payment. You want to be able to choose the plan that you want. And that's an option you definitely have now.
And I should choose IBR and not PAYE because that's going to be ending.
Yeah, but we don't know when. Again, I said, so the safe thing to do is to choose IBR. Let me ask you this. Do you mind telling me just with the ballpark within 10,000 what your income is individually on the separate return?
It's around 50.
And how many people in the household?
Single. I'm
Okay,
a single filer.
Okay. Oh, okay, so single filer. So, 50,000 minus 24,000 is 26,000 times 15% is 3,900 divided by what 12 is a payment of 300 and change, right? So you're looking at a payment around $300 in IBR. Pay as you earn is going to be 200 and change. It's going to be 2/3 of that. So it's a $150 a month difference, but again, every dollar counts, right? So there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's a gamble either way. If you stay in pay as you earn, you'll have a lower payment for longer, but you'll be forced to switch, and you'll have to provide proof of income again on the back end. I think in your case, I would just stay in pay as you earn, because your payment, if your income is going to stay in that $50,000 range, your payment's really not going to go up that much more in IBR, whether it's, they make you switch now or in a year from now, unless you have some big income changes coming up.
Okay.
So might as well stay in pay as you earn as long as you can. you know, and milk that for what it's worth. And then when they force you to switch, okay, just prepare that, you know, your payment is going to go up anyways. And, it takes an $8,000 per year increase to increase your old IBR payment by $100 a month, right? So if you have a slow income growth, the differences aren't going to be that great anyways.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Yes. Did Cody have a question, or who we got next?
I have a question about employment certification for
Yeah.
PSLF.
Sure.
I know you mentioned that it can happen at any time. It can happen later. It's fine, and then your count for qualifying payments goes up. Do you have a recommendation about how often to actually do it? Like, can someone get into trouble if they wait too long, or has anything ever gone wrong?
No, we've had situations where borrowers didn't even know they worked for a nonprofit and they'd been working there for 15 years. And we do one giant 10-year employment certification. They got forgiven like 4 months later. So, literally, the very nature of employment certification is retroactive, right? You have to work at first, anyways. So, as long as you were in a qualifying plan in the past and everything, you'll be able to backdate credit on that. My general advice is this, because I think that, federal student aid will recommend once a year, but I think once every 2 years is fine unless you change employers. Then it's important that you do another employment certification on the employer that you're leaving in the month that you're leaving, so to make sure you get all overlapping credit. The new employer, there's no hurry for that. A lot of times people are in a hurry to do their employment certification on the new employer. Well, you'll get approved, but they'll say, oh, congratulations, your employer is approved. You got 0 months because you only worked there for 2 weeks, right? There's no hurry for the new employer. It's the old employer. You want to make sure you do an additional one. So even if you recertify your employer, or you certify your employer in February, and then you quit your job in April, do another one, another certification in April for that old employer that you're leaving. And the new employer, you could wait a couple of years if you wanted to, as long as you know they're nonprofit. The one reason people recertify quickly, the one advantage to recertifying the employment quickly on new employers is because just to see that it gets approved, right? Psychologically, okay, I'm getting credit. I know for sure that they're a PSLF qualified employer. But if you're not concerned with that and you work for the government or an obvious nonprofit, then that might not be as big a deal to you. So so there's no right or wrong answer for that. Again, I say every 2 years is fine if you keep the same employer until you get to the very end, right? And then you want to make sure you certify somewhere in your last year, so you get hone in on you can calculate to the very month then when your forgiveness is going to hit. There's no surprises that way. And then you do one final employment certification on your 120th month, and then it'll take a month or so before your total goes up to 120. And then when it does, then you can, again, take your hands off the steering wheel and stop making payments, no more certifications, no more applications. The loan will automatically be in the queue for forgiveness and eventually be forgiven. And just one more I'll over answer that question, just to let people know what to look for too. If you ever notice when you look at your PSLF tracker and you submit and you look at payment history, and it shows you eligible months right before that. And if it hasn't been certified yet, it'll say employment not certified, and it won't be a part of your credit, but it's a qualifying month, and it'll turn to qualifying once you certify that month. So that month that you see there, you'll notice that you won't see the most recent month will be last month. In other words, it's February now. So if everybody logs into their PSLF tracker right now, the most recent month it's going to show is January, right? So in February, like let's say right now you submitted an employment certification, even though you made your February payment already on February 10th and you certified on February 15th, you're still going to not get credit for February until around March 7th when they update the system. So when you submit your final employment certification, after making your final payment that you calculated to be your 120th month, you're going to notice that they'll approve it in like a week and it'll say 119. You're like, wait a minute. It's because the last month, February, hasn't shown yet on the system, but it will. And the moment it does, it'll pop you up to 120. Then you'll be in the forgiveness. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you for the detailed answer. Got it.
Sure. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a question for you, Jan.
Yeah.
To come back on something that you mentioned earlier that just kind of popped a little light bulb. What are the tax implications of getting the public loan service forgiveness? Are there any, does it get tagged on to your income at the end, or that there's no implications at all?
Right. So with public service loan forgiveness on the federal level, that is for sure tax-free. You won't even receive a 1099-C. Now, theoretically, there are some states that could make you pay state tax on it, but that is a hypothetical. We don't know if that'll actually even happen. Haven't seen that happen yet. And it's a very limited amount of states who don't follow the federal guidelines on that. So definitely federally tax-free for sure.
Okay, and that just applies to the PSLF. All the other ones, they do have a
Well, under current
implication?
tax law, yes. So under Biden, those forgiven for IBR all the way up until December 31st of 2025, it was tax-free. Under the current administration, it's taxable based on unearned income. You get a
Oh,
1099-C,
wow.
it's basically unearned income, right?
Okay.
So it's going to depend on who's president at the time that you're forgiven, right? So let me over answer
Yeah.
that question. I'll tell you a
Yeah.
scenario. See, I have clients who have 265 qualifying months, right? In other words, they have 35 left before they hit the 25-year forgiveness. That's only 3 years from now. Well, 3 years from now, the current administration won't have completely taken over and established new law yet. So you don't want to get forgiven during the Trump administration, right? Because you're going to have to pay taxes. So if you have 200,000 forgiven, that could hit you for 70 grand in taxes that you wouldn't otherwise have to pay, right? So potentially worst case scenario. Again, you get a good tax attorney, you might be able to mitigate that in tax court. There are ways they can hide assets. There's things a good accountant can do to reduce that taxable event or consequence. But the point is you're going to have to deal with a big chunk of change you're going to owe the IRS. So for some of those people, I'm actually recommend, why don't we just keep this thing in forbearance, stay in the save as long as you can. And even when they kick you out of save, let's maybe stay in forbearance for another year so that when you hit 300 payments, Taylor Swift is president, which we all know is going to happen in 2029. And that she's almost certainly going to reform all of student loans and essentially make them tax free. And that I know for sure from my,
She'll
my,
probably pay for them.
she could probably just out of pocket,
Yeah,
right?
she did it
So,
for her staff, so she could do it for
yeah.
us.
So, that's, and Taylor, Swift does support this message. So, yeah, so that is taxes on the amount forgiven for IDR is a concern. Right now, there's so little precedence for it because no one has ever had to pay taxes on IDR forgiveness because the programs didn't even reach maturity until after the pandemic. And then Biden made it tax free when he took over in 2020. And now it's taxable, but for the first time after January 1st of 2026. So it won't be until somebody gets their 1099-C in 2027 doing their 2026 return that we'll see precedents and we'll see exactly how the IRS is exactly going to handle it. But either way, to avoid that for people who are on pace for forgiveness in the next couple of years, if it were me, I would put my loans in forbearance to make sure I didn't hit 300 until right around 2030, which gives the time for the new administration, assuming that a Democrat wins. And obviously there's some risk involved. But either way, you have a greater chance of paying less taxes in 2030 than you do on forgiveness than getting forgiven before that. So that's what I would do. I would put, if I had 30 payments left, I'd put it in forbearance for a year. That would push it out 4 years. And now you're talking about a 2030 forgiveness, at which point, hopefully new tax law is in place that will allow you to pay less or maybe not any taxes at all. Certainly the likelihood is it'd be less than what it is now. So that's just a little bonus answer to your question. We're at 3:10. Anybody else got questions? We cover them all? All right, well, we got over I think we hit the major points that I wanted to make. I just want to cover the new system, the Parent Plus rules. Again, for any Parent Plus borrowers who have any questions, it's such a consequential issue. Schedule a call with me, and you're welcome, Marina. And yeah, my pleasure. And yes, and feel free to schedule a call. And for anybody who has questions or want help with the recertification switch or want a full analysis to make sure that's the right answer for them, schedule a call and I'll be glad to help. Other than that, it's been a pleasure talking to everybody, and I hope you got some benefit out of this. And let me know if you need anything else. You guys take care. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jan.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for your questions.